Welcome back to Kin in Line. I'll make this part 136. Forgive my clumsiness in the last video. I inadvertently discovered the pause button. So I lost about 5 minutes of recording having pressed this pause button and not even realized it. And then I sort of pressed start again and it showed this image. So we'll resume on this image and hopefully get back all that I previously lost. This is on Pollok Beach, and this is actually the same model shown twice. Person. She just happens to be my model. So I just drew her in different poses. She kept sitting like that, I suppose. And then she was stood up with this towel around her and was on her phone. So obviously this is something that we would not have seen 10, 15, 20 years ago. This obsession with being on your phone. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse there. But I'm using just such a phone to do this, so I'm sure for this purpose it's a very good thing. I really like this guy, this sort of gnarled old man, sort of absorbing the sun and the sea and the sand. And this one demonstrating just why large people are often such good models. Here we got somebody moving at pace across the beach. You can just see her. The movement. That's a feature of several of these drawings, all done at Pollok on the same day. They are just people in movement across a space, and so you don't need to get every last detail. You just want to capture the presence of a being, a spirit, really. Some people aren't as mobile as others. I think this is one of them. But quite happy in her own skin, so what the hell? That all takes all kinds to make the world. Here's the opposite to that. Two very slender young lasses. So I've kept the colour very subtle so as to not detract from those slender bodies. I think this is the same woman we saw earlier on her cell phone in a different pose. So she really earned her keep this day. Again, just a few simple lines drawn directly, taken off the model and put on the page. And an elderly lady reclining at Pollok Beach. A couple of figures on the right there. You can see where I started with that face. These, I'm not sure where I did them, but on blue paper it gives them a totally different feel. Color just obviously, with the blue behind it, color is affected, but I still quite like the effect. Yeah, and there's I've got to be careful not to bump that pause button by mistake. On occasion I've hit the stop button by mistake. This guy looks like he's doing the shot put. So I've shown how certain pens with this, I think they're called fine liners, the ink tends to smudge when you use watercolor on it. But this one, I was very careful, and in fact, a little bit of running that we see actually enhances the image, I think. So yeah, we got this guy leaning back because he's walking along, and I've sort of started with the head, and then the body moves forward, and then the dog and the little kid and whatever's in the background there. I think I'm going to try and stick to a beach theme. I think this was done at Ganubi, I recall, outside East London. A lovely beach just to the east of Bonza Bay. It's the next main beach if you're walking that way. In fact, as a 13-year-old, I walked with some schoolmates and a couple of teachers. We walked all the way from Bonza Bay to Kymouth. I think it was 50 k's or so along the beach. It was quite an adventure. Yeah, child playing in the sand. What's not to enjoy, eh? So everyone is different, and here's somebody with a towel wrapped around. I think it's a him. It could be a they, in the modern pronoun. Whatever. But this one for me really works. It's just something about it. I'm not sure who this is because I've done a full frontal, as it were. But the face is quite pleasing, I think. Trying to get it to focus a bit better. Yeah, obviously the nose was a feature of this person's face. Let's see if there's any more. That's not really much. I think this is on the beach somewhere. I think this was done at Hobie Beach, I remember. There's some benches there, and I was out with my family and their cousins and stuff. And this large person just had to be sketched. As had this might, I don't think it's the same person, but yeah, this was, I mean, you get people there, they've got this problem with how they grew up with legs that are bent out like that. I think it might be due to malnutrition. And I'd forgotten I'd done this. This is a sketch of Hobie Pier. So this was one of the big achievements for tourism that the former Port Elizabeth City Council achieved before the ANC took over in 94. I think it was completed around 92 or so. But it's transformed Hobie Beach into a magnificent venue for sports, sea sport events. Another day on the beach here somewhere with my fishermen. This is probably at Pollok Beach. Yeah. Again, you can only you've only got a few minutes, if that, to create a picture. So, and that figure on the left of the main guy probably disappeared and went and did something, and I lost him. And then, reminiscent of my drawings of my brother Don back in the 80s or 70s, this is a surfer at Pollok Beach, and I've sort of made him grey with this orange kind of projectile that he's going to take out and sweep through those waves, so that he's almost like transformed into a sort of not quite human figure. I mean, once they're out there, surfing is actually one of the most incredible sports, because nowhere else are you as involved with nature as in surfing, because you're dependent entirely on the waves, And here we've got a lovely little seagull. So these were all done quite recently, I would say, in the last about 5 years ago. So we're now in April 2022. So yeah, about 2017 or so. Yeah. On the beach, kids on rocks, rocky outcrops behind, waves pushing through, and a fine specimen of manhood. So this one I didn't watercolor, but I think this is somebody dragging ashore a large, some sort of, it might be one of these paddle things that they use these days. Kind of paddle boards. As you see people moving across the ocean on. There's a couple on different type of paper, and I quite like this composition. I think this is at King's Beach. So it's the solid figure on the right here in his Speedo, and a crane in the background. It's kind of, the perspective isn't necessarily accurate. I think the Mannerists used to do this several hundred years ago, but it's the composition that counts, And then on the other half of this page, which is another of these slender ladies with her dog, or dogs. This would also lend itself to being coloured, but then again, now we see the contrast between a coloured one and black and white. Another day at Pollok, and yeah, just that sun suffusing the landscape there, with the cooler tones of the sea and a bit of sky. This one really actually works quite well, I think. My training as a painter, I think I've underestimated it. It's what gives me the confidence to create paintings out of these sketches. I think this is the last of the seaside ones for now, and again I've created the composition or completed it by adding that ship, which would have been on the horizon somewhere, as this guy takes his board out. That's part of just the joy of going into the sea with any sort of, I prefer body surfing without any boards, but body boards are great fun for most people. I think we'll leave it at that for now. Cheers.